This is the second sermon in a sermon series on marriage called After the Wedding. Now, when I chose that name, After the Wedding, that was very intentional. It is amazing to me how many people will spend so much time and energy and even money preparing for the wedding, but not so much time, energy, and money preparing for the marriage. But the marriage, that's where you're going to spend your time. That wedding is over in 30, 40 minutes. It's the marriage. That's where the trouble starts. So we're talking about after the wedding. Now, in last week's sermon, we found that Jesus taught in Matthew 19 that marriage is supposed to be characterized by a lifelong, loving oneness between a man and a woman, a union that is experienced in both body and soul. The two become one. Upon entering their marriage, a husband and wife are seen as one in the eyes of God. So, on some level, the oneness between them happens immediately. But on other levels, emotionally, psychologically, that oneness can take a long time to develop. So as the first note on the note sheet says, for husbands and wives, oneness is both an immediate reality and an ongoing process. It's both an immediate reality and an ongoing process. Referring to that process, Dr. H. Norman Wright and Wes Roberts, in their book, Before You Say I Do, this is a book that I use in counseling couples for marriage and premarital counseling. In their book, Before You Say I Do, they write that marriages tend to go through different emotional stages. And they describe the first stage as the enchantment stage. This is the stage that most couples experience during dating and engagement and even into the early part of their marriage. Wright and Roberts give a list of words and phrases that describe how the couple feels in this stage. On cloud nine, perfect, just right, forever, infatuated, fascinated, charmed, captivated, ecstasy, thrilled. And the statement that they say basically sums this stage up is, we've arrived. Our lives have led us up to this point. We finally found each other. We've arrived. We made it. You know, when you think about the romantic stories portrayed in movies and on TV shows, the vast majority of them end with the couple in this first stage. That's where the story ends. And they lived, what? Happily ever after. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm afraid that we've been so influenced by these kinds of stories that when we enter into dating and engagement and marriage, most of us have this enchantment stage in our minds as the goal. What's the finish line? What's the goal? It's that enchantment stage. We expect that enchantment is the way it's supposed to end. Well, there's a big problem with this. Why do you think that the enchantment stage is referred to as the first stage of marriage? There's more stages to come. Enchantment is really nice. But the vast majority of couples don't stay there. They move on to other stages, whether they want to or not. It's just part of the natural progression. The reason that the enchantment stage is so enchanting is because the couple doesn't really know each other. That's why. Oh, they think they know each other. They think they're soulmates. And maybe they are. They might be soulmates. Soulmates who don't really know each other. You've got to be married to someone for a while to really get to know him or her. Now, I am a huge advocate of premarital counseling. As a matter of fact, I will not perform a ceremony for a couple unless they've completed premarital counseling. If they want me to perform their wedding, got to finish premarital counseling. And premarital counseling, part of the main goal of the whole process is to open their eyes as wide as possible before they step into this commitment called marriage. But the truth is, no matter how hard you try, you don't really know another person until you've been married to him or her a while. And when the infatuation starts to wear off and reality starts to set in, most couples begin to move from the enchantment stage to the disenchantment stage. Now, here's the list of words and phrases that describe how the couple feels in this second stage. Upset. Terrible. Absolutely wrong. What have we done? Disappointed. Hurt. Put down. Irritated. Burdened. Uncomfortable. Bitter. How about this word? Trapped. Now notice in the first stage, one of the words was captivated. They felt captivated by each other's love, but now it's moved from being captivated to feeling trapped in the relationship. And the statement that sums up this second stage of disenchantment is, we'll never make it. Or, I hope we make it. There's an element of doubt that creeps in. There's an element of fear, and they might not voice it. They might not even talk about it. But suddenly there can be this fear. Now, not all couples experience this disenchantment stage. But I'm convinced, quite firmly, that the vast majority of couples do experience it. Now, not all couples experience it to the same degree. For some, it's just a slight bump in the road. For others, it's a crisis. It's a very serious thing. One of the things that I tell my couples in premarital counseling is this progression from the enchantment stage to the disenchantment stage. You need to recognize it as a normal pattern. If or when this happens to you, don't go into some panic mode and, oh my goodness, what have we done? I've gotten myself into this thing and now things aren't going the way that I expected them to. I told him, just remember, Pastor Kevin said this would probably happen. So just stay calm. It's just a normal part of two people going through the process of oneness. Some marriages don't enter the disenchantment stage for many years. But others are in that second stage within just a few months. As a matter of fact, I have even spoken with people who were in the disenchantment stage by the end of the honeymoon. Yeah. So if you're in this disenchantment stage, and I'm not asking you to raise your hands. You better not raise your hand if you know what's good for you. If you're in this disenchantment stage, what do? How do you get through it? Well, I think to begin with, it helps to recognize the potential good that can come from this stage. There is a silver lining to the clouds. You see, the disenchantment stage is an opportunity to learn to really love each other.